Courage to change. There are songs that end like doors closing. There are songs that end like doors opening. And there are songs that do both. Sia's courage to change belongs to the third kind. It does not merely ask the listener to feel brave. It asks the listener to stand inside a difficult question. What will my life serve? Not in abstraction, not as a slogan, not as a performance of goodness, but as a living, daily, inconvenient practice. The illuminated panel titled At Another's End, Begin Well, was made to begin there, not inside the song, not in imitation of the song, not as an illustration of its lyrics, but at the place where the song leaves us. It begins at the end of another artist's offering. It receives that ending as a threshold. The panel is not album art. It is not a portrait. It is not a lyric sheet. It is a response. A person has heard the call. A person has been moved. A person has reached the quiet space after the music and must now decide whether courage will remain emotion or become conduct. That is where ethical AI mastery begins. Not with the machine, with the human, who has been asked to change. Imagine that the song has ended. The room is still holding the final vibration. The screen has gone dark, or nearly dark. Somewhere inside the listener, the ordinary defenses have been weakened. The news, the noise, the fear, the sense of purposelessness, the private exhaustion of trying to matter in a fractured world. All of it has been named without being solved. Then a page appears, not a clean digital slide, not a corporate ethics poster, not a futuristic diagram glowing with sterile confidence. A page, old parchment, dark ground, worn edges, hand lettering, small blue points like stars or warning lights, a human figure, a humble machine, 5 medallions, a threshold seal. The image looks as though it has survived fire, weather, and many hands. It does not feel newly manufactured. It feels recovered. At the top, the inscription reads, At another's end, begin well. This is the central instruction. It tells us that our work begins after we have received the work of another. The singer gives courage. The listener must give conduct. The artist opens feeling. The practitioner must open responsibility. The song reaches its end. The ethical life begins there. In this way, the panel teaches a form of gratitude that is not consumption. To be moved by a song is not simply to play it again. It is to ask what the movement now requires. The music has already done its part. Now the listener must do theirs. At the center of the manuscript panel stands a small human figure holding a letter. Before them is not a robot overlord, not a sleek device, not an all-seeing intelligence enthroned above humanity. Instead, the machine resembles a lantern, a reliquary, an oracle box, a companion of light. It glows, but it does not rule. This distinction matters. Modern culture often frames artificial intelligence through 2 false icons, the servant and the sovereign. In the first, AI is reduced to a tool with no moral atmosphere around it. In the second, AI is inflated into destiny, authority, and replacement. Both visions are dangerous because both allow the human being to disappear. The panel refuses both. The machine is present, but it is not central in the moral sense. It illuminates, it does not absolve. It assists, it does not inherit the conscience of the user. It may extend perception, memory, language, design, research, and imagination, but it cannot take responsibility for the human purpose behind those acts. The figure holds a handwritten letter. This is crucial. The handwritten letter represents friction, embodiment, delay, and care. It is the opposite of instant generation. It is the reminder that the digital door may open quickly, but the completed crossing still requires human presence. The person must write. The person must choose. The person must sign their name to the consequence. In the universe of ethical AI mastery, the letter is not nostalgia. It is discipline. It slows the hand just enough for conscience to enter. The central inscription reads, Use intelligence as a candle, not a crown. Let courage become practice. Let practice become care. This is the heart of the image. A candle serves by giving light. A crown serves by declaring status. When intelligence becomes a crown, it is used to dominate, impress, accelerate, extract, outmaneuver, or appear superior. It turns knowledge into hierarchy. It turns language into leverage. It turns tools into symbols of power. When intelligence becomes a candle, it is used to illuminate what would otherwise remain unseen. It helps a person find the next step. It reveals harm. It clarifies intention. It keeps watch over the vulnerable places. It allows the worker to proceed with humility. This is why courage alone is not enough. Courage may begin as emotion, but it must mature into practice. Otherwise, it becomes performance. A person can feel inspired and still act carelessly. A person can speak of change and still automate harm. A person can claim purpose and still ignore the lives touched by their tools. The panel insists on sequence. First, courage. Then practice. Then care. Care is courage that stayed long enough to become useful. Surrounding the central scene are 5 medallions. They function like manuscript virtues, but they are not abstract ideals. They are practical disciplines. Each one answers the question, what does courage look like when artificial intelligence enters the room? Automation is not neutral merely because it is efficient. Before using AI to generate, replace, summarize, predict, classify, rank, imitate, or decide, the practitioner must ask, who is affected by this automation? And have they been considered? Some tasks are appropriate for automation. Others require consent, supervision, or refusal. Still others must remain human because the human presence is the point. To ask before automating is to interrupt the hunger for speed. It is to remember that not every friction is a flaw. Some friction protects dignity. AI can produce outputs without understanding purpose. Humans can do the same. The second medallion requires the practitioner to name the human purpose before invoking the machine. Not the technical task. Not the desired aesthetic. Not the market advantage. The human purpose. Are we helping someone learn? Are we preserving memory? Are we reducing confusion? Are we making beauty more accessible? Are we repairing harm? Are we telling the truth more clearly? Are we merely producing more noise? If the purpose cannot be named, the tool should wait. Every powerful system eventually meets someone with less power. The vulnerable may be children, elders, workers, grieving people, disabled people, communities under surveillance, people with limited technical literacy, people whose data is being used without understanding, or people whose likeness, labor, language, or story can be extracted and repackaged. Ethical AI mastery begins with the question power rarely asks first. Who could be harmed by this? Protection does not mean fearfully refusing all use. It means designing with the likely wound in view. It means refusing to treat harm as collateral damage in the pursuit of novelty. The fourth medallion is an act of humility. No intelligence begins from nowhere. Human beings are shaped by teachers, ancestors, books, songs, images, griefs, communities, mistakes, and quiet acts of care. Artificial intelligence systems are shaped by vast bodies of human expression, labor, and classification. To cite what shaped us is to resist the illusion of solitary genius. The panel itself practices this. It begins after Sia's song. It does not steal the song. It does not reproduce the song. It acknowledges the threshold created by the song and then asks what must happen next. Citation is not only academic formality, it is moral orientation. It says, I did not arrive alone. The fifth medallion gathers the others into a final test. After the tool has been used, after the image has been made, after the message has been sent, after the model has assisted, after the system has accelerated the work, we must ask, what has become more whole because of this? Not merely more visible, not merely more profitable, not merely more efficient, not merely more impressive, more whole. Wholeness may appear as understanding, relief, beauty, repair, preservation, courage, consent, clearer boundaries, better memory, or a person feeling less abandoned in the work before them. This is not a sentimental measure. It is a demanding one. In the margins of the panel are two quiet teachings. One says, in essence, that we build not to replace humanity, but to remember what matters. The other warns that power without purpose wanders, and purpose without courage fades. Together, they form a pair of guardrails. The first protects against replacement fantasies. The second protects against passive ideals. It is not enough to say that AI should serve humanity. That phrase can become vague enough to excuse almost anything. The question is, which humans, in what conditions, under whose control, with what safeguards, toward what end? Likewise, it is not enough to have purpose in theory. Purpose must be accompanied by courage, because every real purpose eventually requires a cost. It asks for a choice. It asks for restraint. It asks for the willingness to stop, revise, apologize, disclose, credit, refuse, or begin again. This is where the panel ties most deeply to the emotional world of courage to change. The song does not merely admire courage as an aesthetic. It wrestles with the fear of meaninglessness and the longing to matter. The panel takes that longing and places it inside a workshop. It asks, what would it mean for your life to matter through your use of intelligence? Near the bottom of the image is a seal. Every choice is a threshold. This is the doctrine of the panel. A threshold is not only a doorway between rooms. It is a moral crossing. It is the moment before action becomes consequence. Every prompt is a threshold. Every generated image is a threshold. Every automated reply is a threshold. Every data set is a threshold. Every classroom use is a threshold. Every public claim about AI is a threshold. Every private dependence on AI is a threshold. Every refusal is also a threshold. The danger of powerful tools is that they make thresholds feel invisible. They reduce the pause between desire and result. They make action so smooth that conscience arrives late. The manuscript form resists that smoothness. It asks the viewer to slow down, to read the border, to notice the medallions, to feel the age of the page, to see the human body standing before the machine, to understand that a glowing intelligence still requires a grounded hand. The bottom instruction reads, pause, discern, make, repair, preserve. These are not decorative verbs. They are a practice sequence. Pause before invocation. Discern the purpose. Make with care. Repair what is harmed. Preserve what must not be lost. This is how courage becomes architecture. To tie the panel to Sia's courage to change ethically, we must be precise. The song is not raw material to be harvested. It is not a quarry of phrases. It is not a brand to be absorbed into another project. It is a finished artistic act that creates an emotional opening. Our work begins after that opening. The song gives us the felt condition, the ache of wanting one's life to matter, the fear of having no purpose, the struggle to continue caring in a world that can make care feel futile. The panel gives us the practice response. Name the purpose. Protect the vulnerable. Use intelligence humbly. Cite influence. Repair harm. Preserve what matters. The bridge between them is courage. But the courage is transformed. In the song, courage is interior, existential, sung from within the human struggle. In the panel, courage becomes procedural, communal, and ethical. It becomes a way of working. It enters the hands. It enters the tools. It enters the archive. It enters the classroom. It enters the prompt. It enters the letter. The song asks whether change is possible. The panel answers yes, but not as inspiration alone. Change must be practiced. The panel feels like a page from a future monastery. This does not mean withdrawal from the world. It means disciplined attention inside the world. A monastery, in this sense, is any place where the sacredness of attention is protected from the market's demand for speed. It is any workshop where the maker refuses to separate beauty from responsibility. It is any learning space where power is handled with ceremony, because power without ceremony becomes appetite. The future monastery of humane technology does not reject machines. It teaches people how to stand before them. It teaches that mastery is not domination. It teaches that fluency is not wisdom. It teaches that speed is not purpose. It teaches that generation is not stewardship. It teaches that intelligence is not innocence. The person in the panel stands before the machine lantern with a letter because the true question is not whether AI can produce language. The true question is whether we can still mean what we say. The image may be read as a covenant for anyone entering AI mastery, not a legal contract, not a policy memo, a covenant of practice. It might be spoken this way. I will not use intelligence to escape responsibility. I will not confuse speed with care. I will not automate what requires presence. I will not hide the sources that shaped my work. I will not treat vulnerable people as test material. I will not let the machine become a crown. I will use it, when worthy, as a candle. I will pause. I will discern. I will make. I will repair. I will preserve. This is not perfectionism. It is stewardship. Ethical AI mastery does not require the practitioner to be flawless. It requires them to remain answerable. Answerability is the living thread between courage and change. The old manuscript style is not decorative nostalgia. It performs the very discipline the panel teaches. A manuscript page takes time. It bears the evidence of hand, material, margin, correction, and care. It reminds the viewer that knowledge was once copied slowly, preserved deliberately, and carried across generations by people who believed that words mattered enough to protect. Artificial intelligence can make language abundant, but abundance is not preservation. Preservation requires judgment. What should be kept? What should be named? What should be corrected? What should be refused? What should be handed forward? What should remain handwritten because the hand itself is part of the meaning? The manuscript form asks AI mastery to recover reverence without abandoning technology. It invites a future where digital power and human ritual are not enemies, but the ritual governs the power. The candle is allowed. The crown is refused. When courage to change ends, the listener may be left with a pressure in the chest, the sense that something must be done, but not yet knowing what. The panel receives that pressure and gives it shape. It says, begin with one choice. Not the whole world, not the whole system, not every wound at once. One choice? Ask before you automate. Name the human purpose. Protect the vulnerable. Cite what shaped you. Leave the world more whole. This is how an immense ethical horizon becomes a daily practice. A person does not become courageous by admiring courage. A person becomes courageous by crossing small thresholds honestly, repeatedly, especially when no applause is waiting on the other side. The song can awaken the will. The panel can train the hand. Together they form a passage, from feeling to practice, from private longing to public care, from inspiration to stewardship. At the very bottom of the image, beneath the threshold seal, there is a final line. May our work be worthy of the lives it touches. This is the closing prayer of the panel. It is also the most serious measure of AI mastery. Not, may our work be impressive. Not, may our work go viral. Not, may our work prove that we are ahead. Not, may our work automate everyone else before they automate us. May our work be worthy. Worthy of the student who trusts it. Worthy of the elder whose memory it helps preserve. Worthy of the artist whose influence it acknowledges. Worthy of the worker whose dignity it does not erase. Worthy of the child who will inherit its consequences. Worthy of the grieving person who needs language handled gently. Worthy of the community whose story cannot be reduced to data. Worthy of the future that is already listening. This is where courage becomes change. Not in a single dramatic transformation, but in the repeated decision to let intelligence serve care. The music ends. The page remains. The figure stands at the threshold, letter in hand, machine light before them, medallions watching from the margins, and the instruction is clear. At another's end, begin well. Use intelligence as a candle, not a crown. Let courage become practice. Let practice become care. Then cross.